Well, it was about 2 weeks ago that my amazing wife, Lauren, and I, we celebrated our 8th wedding anniversary. Thank you. And so what's been amazing for me these past 8 years is just looking at everything that went into this relationship. I mean, there's a lot that goes into relationships, right? But for whatever reason this year, I wanted to go back 9 years ago to the day of May 1st, 2009. That was the day that Lauren and I got engaged, the day I asked her to marry me. And so if you don't know me very well, let me fill you in a little bit. I'm a bit of a softie. I love the movie The Notebook. I love long walks on the beach. And I love a hot cup of tea and a bubble bath. It's so nice. And so you might be sitting here thinking that I probably had some special, super romantic thing planned out for how I was going to ask her. That's the furthest from the truth. To be honest, I had the ring for a few days. I got off work one day, and I'm like, let's do this. So I called her up. I said, hey, we're going to eat in a little bit. I'll be over soon. Remembered, hey, I got to ask her parents for permission. So called them up, asked if I could stop by, went over to their house, talked to them way too long. Meanwhile, frustrating Lauren, who's waiting to eat dinner with me. So I leave their house, get to the apartment, run up the steps. I knock on the door. She opens it. And I stood there and looked at her, and I said, Lauren, I love you so much. Will you marry me? I even forgot to get down on one knee. But regardless of that, she said what I was hoping she would say. She said yes. Then came the tagline. She said, but why now? Why now? I don't know why now. Why not? Let's get married. Let's do this. And I never gave that question much thought beyond that day until recently I came across a proverb that really started putting my mind around the answer to that question. So let's read it together. Proverbs chapter 5, verse 18 says, let your wife be a fountain of blessing for you. Rejoice in the wife of your youth. Rejoice in the wife of your youth. Now, guys, I know this verse says wife, but we can stick ourselves in this also. So what is this verse asking us? Is it asking us to stay stuck in the past, to be looking back at what was and never in the present or looking forward? No, there's actually something very profound in it. We can apply it to many of our relationships, our friendships, our families, and especially our marriages. So what King Solomon, the writer of this verse, is asking us to do is to zero in on a specific period of our relationships. That's the beginning or the youthful period of this relationship. And so what are we doing at this point of the relationship? What we're doing is laying the foundation for the rest of the relationship to be built upon. So to illustrate this a little bit, I want you to think about the process of building a house, what that looks like. When you build a house, do you jump to the walls and the ceilings right away? No, you lay a nice, sturdy, firm foundation to build the rest of the house upon. And when we do this, do we pick just any material to use? Do we pick sand or dirt? We don't do that because we know that the first heavy rainfall will come along and just wash all of it away. So we choose something like this: cement, concrete. And concrete has a lot of cool qualities to it. I mean, the first one is the curing process. It cures very quickly in the beginning, allowing it to be built upon very early on. Then from that point on, the curing process actually never stops. So that means that the older it gets, the harder it gets. It can withstand a lot. So May 1st, 2009, that was the day I realized that Lauren and I's relationship was ready to be built upon. But oftentimes, what do we do once we get past the beginning part of our relationships? Well, when it comes to this house metaphor, we finish it up. Especially the basement, we go down there, we put up drywall, we make it a comfortable place to go to. Or maybe we do the opposite. We don't finish the basement, but what does it become? It becomes a storage area where we just go from time to time when we need something. But all too often, we move so quickly past this point of the relationship that we forget what is there supporting and holding up the rest of the relationship. Until a time comes when something rocks the foundation. Until something comes and rocks the foundation. So when Lauren and I, when we moved on in our relationship, we had our first baby boy, Nolan. And so our apartment was getting too small. We needed to look into purchasing a house together. So there was one house in particular that was very attractive to us. The price was great. The size was good. The location was great. So we had a realtor take us through the house. And we're going through it, and we're looking around thinking, man, this is fantastic. Just a little TLC here, a little bit of updating there. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, there's something wrong with this house. Why is it priced so moderately? Then we walked into the basement of this house and realized the walls were bowing in. The pressure from the outside ground was pushing in on the walls of the basement of this house, jeopardizing its foundation. And I could tell a little bit of work had been done to keep them from totally falling in, but really what this house needed lifted up and the walls restored, the foundation restored. And standing there, I'll be honest, it was a little scary to look at. Does that sound familiar for any of you? Maybe that's a relationship that you are currently in. You're feeling the pressure pushing in on those side walls, just hoping that it doesn't crumble in. You're thinking, man, if you could just lift it up and just repair the walls of this foundation. Or maybe for some of you, you're sitting here feeling a little bit of that pressure right now, knowing that that's where your relationship is heading, and you're trying desperately to find a way to alter the course of it. Or maybe for some of you, your relationships are good. You're sitting here thinking, no, they're well built, they're sturdy, they're solid. But we all know that even the strongest relationships will have things that come along and try to rock them, right? So what do we do? Well, the first thing I want to say is don't give up. Don't give up. Why? Because God wants us to have relationships that last. There's a foundation under there somewhere, and it means something. The two of you came together to build that foundation. So why would you want to risk everything that's been built upon it? God wants our relationships to last. That's the premise of what this verse is hopefully setting us up to do. So many of you might be sitting here thinking, I don't even know where my foundation is. I don't even know what it looks like. Well, find it. Grab the other person. You might have to go back further. You might have to dig in a little bit deeper. Find it. And once you do, what does God ask us to do? He says, rejoice. Rejoice in that period. Rejoice in the relational foundation that's there. Because that's a period of this youthfulness that can be recreated time and time again with our intentionality. It takes our intentionality to do that. So we need to make a discipline of regularly going into the basement, going there and seeing what's there supporting it. It's been there this whole entire time. We just have to recognize it. So what does that take? It's pretty simple. But it can be hard. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes money, sometimes investing in that relationship time and time again. But it takes work to constantly remind ourselves what a healthy, sturdy relationship looks like. So if I could leave you with just a little bottom line for you to remember, if something comes along and tries to rock your foundation, reinforce it. Reinforce it time and time and time again. And if I could push that one step further for each and every one of you, don't wait for that to happen. Don't wait for something to test the foundation. But instead, regularly do that on your own. Regularly take the other person down into the basement and reinforce it. So no matter what, it can withstand anything that might come at it. Thank you so much for listening.